Hey everyone, got him here! So, you're thinking about diving into the academic pool, maybe even becoming a doctor of philosophy? It's a big decision. Should you brave the hallowed halls of American universities, or try something a little more continental? Choosing where to do your PhD is about more than just the research topic. It's about lifestyle, funding, and your future after you graduate. In this video, we're breaking down the epic battle of the PhDs Europe versus the USA. Let's get started! Alright, first things first. Let's talk about time. If you're thinking about doing your PhD in the US, you're probably looking at 5 to 7 years. Why so long? In the US, you spend your first 2 years taking courses and attending seminars. It's like the academic equivalent of boot camp, except instead of learning how to do a push-up, you're learning how to write a dissertation proposal. In Europe, things move faster, 3 to 4 years on average. European PhD programs are all about research from day one, no extra courses, and in some countries like the UK you can even find 3-year PhD programs. Okay, so we've talked about time, but now let's talk about money. Nobody goes into academia to get rich, but you don't want to be drowning in debt before you even finish your dissertation. In the US, most PhD programs are fully funded. They waive your tuition fees and give you a stipend to live on. This stipend can vary, but is usually between $20,000 and $40,000 per year. The catch? That funding usually comes with strings attached, like working as a teaching assistant, TA, or a research assistant, RA. Now let's hop over to Europe. In many European countries like Germany, Norway, and Sweden, public universities charge little to no tuition fees for PhD programs. Free education. Of course, you still have to pay for living expenses, but no tuition is a pretty sweet deal. Stipends in Europe can vary widely depending on the country and the institution. Some countries, like Switzerland and Denmark, offer very generous stipends, sometimes even more than what you would get in the US. But other countries, particularly in Southern Europe, may offer lower stipends. In the US, you can expect to get paid more, but you'll likely have to work more hours. In Europe, tuition is often free and stipends can be quite good in some countries, but less so in others. Okay, let's be real, doing a PhD is a lot of work. But does that mean you have to give up your entire life for it? Well, that's where things get interesting when we compare the US and Europe. In the US, PhD programs are known for being pretty intense. Long hours in the library, late nights in the lab, and constant pressure to publish research. It's a highly competitive environment, but US universities often provide a lot of structured support for their PhD students. Now let's jet set over to Europe. In general, European PhD programs tend to have a better work-life balance. Since PhDs are shorter, there's less pressure to cram everything into a few years. And in many European countries, people actually value vacation time. So you might actually have time to have a life outside of your research. Of course, this doesn't mean that European PhDs are a walk in the park, but the overall culture is generally more relaxed, and there's less of a sense that you have to sacrifice everything for your research. Alright, so you've finished your PhD, you've written your dissertation, you've defended your research like a boss. Now what? If you're hoping to stay in the country where you studied, things can get a little tricky, especially when we're talking about the US and its notoriously complex immigration system. Getting a green card after a PhD in the US is kind of like winning the lottery. In order to get a green card through employment, your employer usually has to sponsor you for an H-1B visa. The H-1B visa program is notoriously competitive, with a limited number of visas available each year. STEM PhD graduates get a bit of a leg up with optional practical training, OPT, allowing them to work in the US for up to 3 years after graduation. But even with OPT, the process can be long, expensive, and uncertain. Now let's cross the Atlantic and see what Europe has to offer. Many European countries offer a much easier path to permanent residency, especially for highly skilled workers like PhD graduates. For example, Germany gives PhD graduates an 18-month job search visa after they finish their studies, and once you find a job, you can usually apply for a residence permit that leads to permanent residency. Scandinavian countries and the Netherlands also have fast-track schemes for highly skilled workers, making it relatively straightforward for PhD graduates to settle down and build a life there. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the length of PhD programs, the cost of tuition and funding, the work-life balance, and even the visa situation after graduation. But now for the million-dollar question, which is better, Europe or the USA? Well, I'm not going to tell you what to do. If you're looking for a highly structured PhD program with strong mentorship and support, the US might be a good choice for you. US universities also tend to offer higher stipends, at least at the top schools. But you'll need to be prepared for a longer program and a more intense work culture. If you're looking for a shorter PhD program with a better work-life balance and an easier path to permanent residency, Europe might be more your speed. Ultimately, the best place to do your PhD depends on your individual needs, goals, and priorities. So, there you have it, the epic battle of the PhDs, Europe versus the USA. Which side will you choose? Let me know in the comments which country you're leaning towards and why. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more PhD tips and tricks. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.